The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the Full Melt Show.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
It's the Full Melt.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
God, back to this stupid thing. Oh, jeez. Stupid, dirty Mike. Stupid, dirty Mike. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? That's a lot better. I'll tell you. We're back. Okay, I'm back. Tell you. If I got anything to say, it's that, everything's so weird. It all got so weird. Back to the dirty Mike thing again. What is up with that? Earth to Earth, Mars to Earth to Mars to Earth. What the hell is going on with that? Oh, I can't come on. Hold on. Is that better? Can you? It's just horrible. The thing has got a little bit of dirt in it. And it just wants to, every time I start to try and talk, it just goes down. And when I touch it, it crackles and like blows out. It's just bad. We needed a new board for our almost near our anniversary. Speaking of anniversaries, coming up right here in early part of January, it'll be our first full solid year on the air on a daily basis. Also, I just have to reference because I really needed that little break away during the holidays. Because of my voice. Now, I don't know if you can tell or not, but my voice is in terrible, terrible shape. I mean, it's just horrible. It hurts to talk. I should not be probably talking at all right now. I really did myself in on that 8-day, 24-hour-day marathon. I mean, it just tore me up. And it did tear me up in a physical way. I mean, I was tired all the time. I barely got anything to sleep. It was just really rough. But the part that took it the worst was my voice. And just have to take this big heavy shirt off. It's gotten awfully warm in here. So here's where we're at with what's going on. We got news, and it's not going to stop. And so I have kind of a premonition that I put forth before, really a prediction, just a logical prediction. You know, I do have a little bit of intuition. There is some kind of magical intuition, but it's not related to making predictions on events. The intuition that I have is made about trouble, like physical trouble, like danger nearby. And it's not something that there's no audible or physical indicator that something's coming up or something is going to happen that's dangerous in my vicinity. But there's a little bell that goes off. And I didn't know about the bell until one day my father explained it to me. He called it a little bell. He called it exactly that. And so for the sake of anecdotal tale, let me tell you this. He told me that, and I didn't believe a word of it at the time, so I'll just tell it to you. He told me one day that when he was a kid, and we're talking like in probably the 60s, probably the middle 60s, early middle 60s, that, one of the things that kids do in high school is they try and get away and get away from the parents and experiment with things like alcohol, especially in the 50s. And so they would have keg parties or field parties where people would have beer, and they'd go out into a field, and, where nobody's looking, they have a bonfire, and, they'd try and be adults for the first time in their lives. It's really just a coming-of-age experimentation, I suppose, a bit of way of socializing and getting used to the way things are for adults. And so he went out into this field with his friends, and there was some indication. I mean, everybody's having a good time. People are drinking. People are socializing. They're all doing whatever they do in the early 60s for dancing around and having fun. And then something overcomes my father, according to him. And he says, look, I gotta go. Everybody's like, oh, what are you doing? You party pooper? Where are you going? You know, it's everything just got started. You just got here. Where are you going now? Oh, going to go back to mama? So they're making fun of him now. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. And so he took off. And it wasn't until the next day when my father had found out that something had gone wrong. There was. I think the farmer had stretched. This is a farm field, right? They're out there partying in a farm field. It's fall, so it's after the harvest. And the farmer had come out and stretched some kind of blockade across where they'd come in and proceeded to smash out headlights and took out all the headlights on the vehicles that were parked illegally on his property, probably as a warning and a reminder that you probably shouldn't be partying back on his property without any kind of permission, especially if you're juniors with booze. So, you know, it explained to me, it's just this thing, it's this bell that goes off, and I just didn't believe him. I didn't believe him at all until nearly an identical thing happened to me. And then after that, I kind of knew how to listen for the bell. It just, wait a minute, tuning in is the bells. And I don't even really have to tune in. It just kind of overcomes me. And again, like, it's no indication. There's no audible or physical or social indication that anything's about to happen. It's just this feeling of dread. It's not paranoia or anything else. It's just this cloud that overcomes you and says it's time to move somewhere else. And so I just listened to that bell. So that's the only real intuition that I have on events. But you're talking about events coming up. I made the prediction earlier that if we didn't get the bills passed that were in the Senate stalled out there behind mostly Senator Jones, I'd imagine, and you know, Senator Jones either in his committee or, you know, did it ever get discharged from committee? Either way, it never got picked back up by the Senate floor. And we're talking about House bills in Michigan, 4209, 4210, and I believe 4278. And I had mentioned, I don't know, about a week ago, that if these bills, the prediction that I made is if these bills don't get passed this year, and they're not going to now because they're out of legislative session, they could call an emergency session and come running back in, but I don't see them doing that for this. It's just not in the cards. So my prediction was that if that didn't happen, that you may see one or both of the MRC and or the MCC. Well, that's who's whistling at me? The MRC and or the MCC, Michigan Responsibility Council and the Michigan Cannabis Coalition, I believe it is. Both big business groups. One's medical marijuana related. One is going to revive probably their old campaign for signature gathering, which they had suspended previously, I think, in hopes of working with the Senate and getting what the House passed there. Since that didn't happen, I was making the prediction that you may see either one of these organizations early in January making an announcement regarding signature petition gathering drives. And the logical reason would be, see, there's no bell attached to this prediction. It was just logic I used. Just applying logic to theory. It's pretty simple to do, actually. So if they didn't get them passed, you'd see these other two bills perhaps pop back up, these other two groups pop back up as citizens' initiative drives. And I think that's what may be happening in the background. It might not even wait until next year. You might see it happen before this year ends that these groups announce. And the reason would be is because you've got until June to get ballot language submitted with signatures attached that have been approved as being 252,000 signatures of registered voters that are valid. All the signatures validate. Then your drive will get on the ballot in the fall, in November. So they've got until June, which gives them the full 6 months, allowed in law, the 180-day collection period, assuming that they started collecting between January and then the end of May. That would give them their 180 days. So it's just applying logic, right? If they didn't get it done at the Senate, because, those are the people that are principally behind gutting the bills that we had there working. It was this time last year, literally this time last year, when they gutted those bills, when they dropped them, when pressure from the police and Rick Jones and, the Sheriff's Association and, Mike Bouchard and which is, he's the sheriff of the largest sheriff's department here in Michigan and one of the largest in the nation. And then also Attorney General Bill Schuette, who's been opposed to the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act since its inception. In fact, before its inception. He was the guy saying on TV, there's nothing in this law that will prevent pot shops from popping up all across the state. And then as soon as we voted it in and we voted him in as Attorney General, who's supposed to back the law we just passed, there's nothing in this law that says you can put pot shops up anywhere in the state. You see how they do? It tells you how he stands with no merit. There's no merit behind what that man says because he'll say whatever it is that gets you to believe whatever it is he needs you to believe to take the action he wants you to take. Be it false, be it true. And I'm telling you, it's all false. It's whatever it is. He'll say whatever it is. Oh, he'll find some legal mumbo jumbo to back it up. But you can always twist law that way. So coming up here in just a bit, we'll talk about some marijuana-related news. There's a lot of stuff that's coming up here towards the end of the year. Not only these groups, because I still think they're going to announce, and now I'm going to up that ante. I think there's movement done in the background that says that they're going to do that before the year's end. At least one, maybe both. We'll see how that plays out. We'll see if that method of prediction comes true. Now, also, I've said before that it's a Lincoln quote. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Right? You can say right now, if you've got all the parts to build a car with, or you know where you can get them, and you got the means by which to get the pieces to assemble an automobile, you can predict today that I'm going to build a car. Right? You could say, look, I'm going to make the prediction that I'm going to build a car. Because you know already the pathway by which you can build one. So you go build it. That's an easy way to predict the future, besides some intuition. Besides some ESP, some extrasensory perception. So I'm going to say that the best way to predict the future on marijuana policy in this country as a whole is to go out there and create it. And that's what we're doing. We're rolling up sleeves. We're going to cities and towns. We're collecting signatures for MI Legalize, and they're doing it for their own cities. Don't you forget they're doing that. We'll tell you about that and some other year-ending eye-openers all about cannabis here on the Full Melt Show as we get underway in another Monday. Oh, God, it's Christmas time.
Getting the Full Melt.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law
at RudoyLaw.com.
RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana
and up-to-date news.
That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade. You got this.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki,
Sacred Elements.
raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dordt Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
Surprise, motherfucker.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
I'm not a fan of when it rains. I'm like a phantom or a ghost those days. Not the man of his mistakes.
All right, is the mic working? It's still working. Look at that. Never can tell if I pop that mic if you can hear me or not. It's just bad news. I need a cigarette. Give me a cigarette. Sounds like a plan I can marshal forward now. Hello, you're on the Hello, you're on the Full Melt Show.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
This is Eric.
I'm here. Are you there?
I'm getting a lot of static.
A lot of static. Let me see if we can fix that. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Is this better if I do this? Check.
A lot of back feed.
Little feedback.
For fuzzy stuff. I'm not a DJ. I just trying to communicate here.
As long as you can make me out, let's work with that.
That works, man.
All right. So, Eric?
Yeah.
Where are you calling from, Eric?
I'm calling from Bismarck, North Dakota.
What's on your mind on the cannabis subject, sir?
I just said I wanted to call in just to ask. I have a situation with a former friend who's pretty close to me. We were pretty close. And it deals with the legalization of marijuana because I think that if things like ML legalized are to happen and more states legalize marijuana, I think that the whole way the government works on a federal level,
right,
things will have to slowly change. And I was thinking like my friend who was military, he was in the military, and he had issues a couple times with marijuana. And the way they treated him after that was on his record when he had issues.
Now, are you saying, Eric, can I just ask you a question real quick? Are you saying that he was caught with marijuana? Or was it on base or off base? Was he just drug tested and found it was in his system at some point? How do they connect marijuana to?
And my friend was 51 years old when he passed away in the 1st of December.
Oh, he died.
His first, at the VA hospital in Ann Arbor.
Oh, that's right near here. I mean, that's 20 minutes away from the studio.
Yeah. He was under care for psychiatric treatment. And,
so for like post-traumatic stress
disorder since 2009.
So you're talking about post-traumatic stress left over from the Gulf War or that whole Arab Middle East conflict.
You know what it kind of was? He had a lot of stress at home and his life was stressful. And we were friends. How we became friends is we both sold manufactured housing. We sold trailer homes and modulars.
Right.
And we shared an office, and we had a salary plus commission job from 2001 to 2004. Times were good, and life was good, and we became great friends. And he loved to smoke pot, and so did I. And we smoked pot, hung out, and then sold trailer homes.
Well,
life was great, man.
It's a Trailer Park Boys so far.
Pretty much, we were the Trailer Park Boys, sold the trailers.
Or at least you were selling to the Trailer Park Boys. Or maybe somebody was buying from somebody who sold. I don't know. So your point is that you became friends. You're both potheads, so to speak. Your friend goes back to the war. What happened in 2004?
Well, what happened was, just so you know how he got his thing, he's 10 years older than me. He's like my big brother.
Well, he's just he's a couple years older than me.
1980. Yeah. In 1981, he joined the Army for the thing, and he got caught with some pot seeds in his room. He was in Hawaii, is where he's stationed at. He worked on tanks. And, all the stuff back then, that they did to you. He had to go through all his programs, and then he got out. His thing was done, and he didn't want to go back to the military again. But what happened was,
just so I can put this into context, so that people say millennials. We have a lot of millennials that listen to the show, or people who are just slightly older than millennials. A lot of people in the 30 to 44, and then 44 to 54 in that category. So for people who are not familiar with that time, you got to remember this was only some 11 years after the Controlled Substances Act was passed, which is during the Nixon administration, and they really started cracking down on what they considered was the counterculture, the hippie generation. They're going to destroy the fabric of America. They're going to vote in all their hippie friends, and it's going to ruin the United States. That was the opinion of Mr. Nixon at the time. This is only 11 years later, right? So they were the laws back then weren't so harsh on people with marijuana, even though it was a Schedule I drug. They hadn't started really ramping it up bad now. So he was caught on a military base. So I'm not familiar with the military code because that's a wholly different set of laws. And they're much more strict. But you're saying he went through a program, got branded with the pot thing back then.
Yeah, so like in the military, that's on your record permanent. And
right.
You know, he was just a kid, and I guess he would tell me when you share an office with a guy for a few years, and you look at each other 50 hours a week, 40 hours a week, he tells stories.
Sure.
And basically what he related the story was, he goes, it was 18, it really sucked, they made me go to counseling, they drug tested me all the time.
And this is for seeds.
In my room. They always, he got his room searched every day. And
this was for seeds, though. This wasn't for actual marijuana. This wasn't for something in his system. He didn't get drug tested and get busted that way. He got caught with seeds.
Yeah, it was seed. Seed was in his room. They busted up a baggie of seed, got left, and they went through his room with the fine-tooth comb because they figured they knew he was smoking pot, him and his fucking buddies. And long story short, but that goes on. That's on his military record forever.
Right. So in 2000, what happened?
20 years later goes by. He doesn't ever want plans of going in the military. Well, when the economy crashed, the first thing that happened in the housing market in Michigan, where we were at in Midland, Michigan, is where we're from.
Right.
The housing market, right? And the lower end of your economic people making 25 to 30 grand, who work hard and they don't live off of much. Them are the first ones that get affected when the economy tanks.
Oh, for sure. They're like the canaries in the coal mine.
Exactly. And, there wasn't people, the whole selling manufactured housing gig was gone. And so our company was shut down. And his life kind of went down hard from there. And he had problems, marital, family things. And lo and behold, in 2008, his dad, someone he knew, said, Greg, you could join the National Guard right up the street. And then they'll give you 6 more years and all this time. And he goes, you only got to be in for 5 years, and you'll get your 15 years in, and you'll get a pension. And you don't got a pension now, and you're 41.
Well, not only that, they'll pay you. The economy sucks, so you don't have a job. They'll give you some money.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to get a check every month, and he's going to go hang out at the armory down the street with guys he knows from the local town. And because they wouldn't let him in when they didn't need people through the 90s. They wouldn't let him in, but
wait a minute. So what you're saying? Wait, Eric, hang on a second. I just want to. So you're saying that they wouldn't let him in when after he did his original tour, they wouldn't let him come back because of the pot thing.
He says he wanted to go back in, and when the original Gulf War happened, and he asked about it, and he just inquired just out of that, because he got all geeked up and felt patriotic, and he wanted to go out, and they said, "No, Mr. Beck, we can't get you into the National Guard right now."
Not because you're a pothead. We don't need no potheads in the National Guard. Go ahead.
And they're basically telling them, it could have been worse for you. But as time goes on, they really started to need a lot more people in the military to go to the Middle East. And so he got in, and he had no choice. He had no job, family support, and he took it. He went to a place called Camp Bucca. It's in El Bazrar. That's where his unit, Midland National Guard, got sent to. They were combined with a couple National Guard units out of Detroit, and they ran that Camp Bucca. That's the prison there, and the big prison that they had there in Iraq.
Are you talking about the same? Are you talking about the same prison that they had the whole the guys with the hoods on their heads and making them stand naked and all that stuff?
That's where when he was there, the head of ISIS was there, and he had him in the chains behind there and fed him his food.
Right, but I'm saying it's not the same prison. Remember they had the big thing that were, what was it called? Oh, what was that stupid thing called? There's a
Camp Bucca.
No,
Bucca.
No, I'm thinking
that's
of
where he was at.
No, I was thinking of something else. Remember they had the big, there was on the cover of Time, they had a hood, they were making them wear hoods, and they were doing stuff to them, and they're embarrassing them. They were doing stuff.
No, not Guantanamo.
No,
Guantanamo.
I'm not talking about Guantanamo. There was a thing that was happening in Iraq. There was a prison there.
He wasn't involved with no torture or nothing like that.
Okay,
they were just a transport squad, and they go pick up prisoners that the military caught, and then bring them back, and then drop them off at the prison, and then feed them.
Okay, so he had a regular basic duty in the war.
That's all he did.
Now, so he comes back, right? He comes back, and then how do you end up in the hospital?
Yeah.
He's in a hospital on drugs for psychiatric issues?
Right. Yeah, his family. He lost his family. He had a total came back, and everything that bad could happen to him and his family happened to him. And it would be a lot. And, he always had the crutch of smoking marijuana, and that was his thing to get by. He wasn't a big-time drinker. We'd drink some beers, yeah. But that's what he did to cope, and that was before people knew that medical marijuana. No one really wasn't informed what marijuana did for people. You were just a loser pothead if you smoked pot.
Right.
People didn't understand the fact that why you were really doing it. If you were doing a lot, you had some things in your life that you were just trying to forget about.
Right.
And when you're still in the military, because he comes back and he's still in the National Guard, and he can't leave that because he needs to get his rest of his years in, a couple more years, so he can get his pension after his 15 years in. He had to go through the whole gamut, and when they had that on there, and he went through some really hard depression, and he had back pain. I mean, he was, at that time, 45 years old, and he was playing soldier,
Right.
And he hurt himself a few times.
The
first thing they did, they got him on psychotics, and they knew that it was on there. Well, gee, we got to give him probably stronger drugs because he'll use marijuana. So next thing you know, he's on, things like Thorazine for his mind. And
whoa. Thorazine is what they give, mental patients in the ward. That's like a huge tranquilizer, Thorazine.
Yeah, and he wasn't moving. His life was ruined. He wouldn't leave his house. Me and my friends would have to go beat on his door to get him to come out. And
he's taking this stuff at home by himself.
Yeah, he wouldn't leave the house. We'd have to continually beat on his door to get Greg to get the fuck out of his chair.
That's terrible.
Because we knew he was in the and he just sitting in the dark staring off.
See, that tells you right now. See, wait a minute. If I'm a doctor and I'm prescribing a guy psychiatric drugs, and his friends are going to his house and having to beat on the door to get him out of the dark just to get him to wake up and come in instead of being all, I don't know, tweaked out and looking out the windows and stuff. I mean, something's obviously wrong with this man's medication right up front, just by that fact alone. If you're a doctor, you're going to do something to intercede right there if you're a normal guy, right? Did you get that?
And being, his friends and loved ones that he had, that we don't know the round. How do we go to call the VA, his VA doctor?
He said something. You said something about them giving opioids for pain. Have you ever given them those too?
Yeah, it was on Percocet. Percocet's some pretty powerful shit there. It's like right under Oxycontin. It still was stronger because they were giving him Vicodins, and the Vicodins went up to this, and then Percocet, and then he was on the Percocet, and then Oxycontin. He was just, let's just say, he had quite what they say on the street, a fucking cocktail to eat every day.
I'm sure. Listen, Eric, hang on a second. See, we're about to hit break, and now I pulled the headphones right out of my own ears. Hold on a second. All right, so we're about to hit the break here, and when the music rolls up, it's probably going to be too loud for you, and nobody's going to be able to hear you or you like that.
I'll be just fine.
No, I'm just saying it's hard to talk over that music because you can't get it. It's just weird for your end. I've been on that end before.
I can wait. Yeah, I can wait.
So as we hit the commercial break here, because we'll come back on the other side, but in the meanwhile, I want to invite people into the conversation about this issue about veterans and medical marijuana and appropriate treatment, because you said that the man died, and I want to get to that point and how that happened, because it sounds like there's a terrible prescription for tragedy coming up here. What's going on with that break? Something is not.
Absolutely.
Hang on a second. There's something not happening with the audio now. I don't get it. Something is. We're actually in the break, and I don't know why the audio's not playing. There's something terribly wrong. Let me just see if I can fix it. I have no idea what just happened there. Let me see if we can get it back. Because it's been just a weird thing going on today with the audio and with the microphone. And I don't know what's going on, but let's see. There's got to be. Let me just see if we're going to. Because we're already way over time. For some reason, we were in the break and it just wasn't playing. There we go. Something happened to that playback. I don't know what happened, but the computer flipped out and wasn't playing the audio back. So hang on, Eric. But if you want to get on in the conversation, if you know somebody that was a veteran, if you got a question about veteran medicine or medical marijuana as it applies to veterans, or even the current law surrounding that, 844 toll free 844-420-TALK. That's 8255.
You're getting the full melt.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law
at RudoyLaw.com.
RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana
and up-to-date news.
That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade. You got this.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Door Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
Surprise, motherfucker.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
I'm not a fan of when it rains. I'm like a phantom or a ghost. Those days are not the man of his mistakes. So many.
We're talking about veterans and medical marijuana. At some point, we get back to the news. Right now, we're going to get back to Eric, who's on the phone with us. Eric, you said you're from North Dakota?
Yes.
Okay. So you were talking about your friend, and you say that he ended up in the hospital. Do you know what led to his trip to the hospital?
Oh, he was what I was told. What I was told was he was put in for electric shock therapy, which I didn't even know was done. I thought that was something in the past.
No,
reset his mind.
It's still something that they do frequently in this country, electric shock therapy. You'd think that it would have went away, but it's still one of the only ways that they, for people who have severe issues, they use it as a way to, quote unquote, reset the brain. What I think they're doing is really barbaric. But anyway,
it's a horrible thing. It was quite a lot to take in when you find out your buddy's dead. You know, it's like, then how did he die?
So he went in for this
heck?
electroshock therapy. Go on from there.
Yeah, they did a bed check only every 2 hours. You think something after that, where a side effect of that procedure is seizures and spasms. and he passed away. He choked to death. They had a bed check at 4 a.m., and they come back at bed check at 6, and he wasn't breathing.
No, wait, no.
And he died.
If you're in a hospital,
he had no 24-hour care. They had no monitors on him at all.
See, that's just negligent. That's just clear negligence. Look, if you're going into a place where your medical care is under the authority of some other person, you've signed it away, and that person is making decisions for you about using electroshock therapy, which the clear side effects are seizures and convulsions. Immediately following that procedure, you have to monitor them all the time, because if there is a seizure, this is the kind of thing that can happen. This is simply standard medical practice. This is normally the standard of care. It is constant monitoring. And if you can't have physical eyes with a person in the room doing just that, then there has to be some other device that is monitoring his breathing. It's not acceptable to come into a room.
That's the anger that I have. You just summed it up correctly with all his friends. Why? Why was there not someone there? Why was there not?
It's acceptable not to have somebody there. It's acceptable not to have somebody there. What's not acceptable is not to monitor him in the alternative. I mean, it's not acceptable to walk into that room every 2 hours and then one of the hours find him dead. Not acceptable. That is it's underneath the standard of care, and it's something that somebody from the family should be looking at an attorney with. I understand it's the VA. I understand it's the federal government, and they can spend endless amounts of money in fighting such a thing. But if nobody goes in there and fights these people on those things, nothing ever changes. You saw the stir that got made up of 60 Minutes as soon as somebody came in and said, look, there are people dying on the waiting list. There was a huge overhaul as a result of that. There was a lot of butt kicking that went on. There was a lot of money poured into the system from Congress over that. Now they need to go in there and clean out these dumbass doctors who want to say, oh, you know what, we're just a Veterans Administration. You're just going to have to put up with it. That's not acceptable. These are military veterans of foreign wars who've gone over there and risked life and limb, many times both, so that you and I could wear stripes of freedom on our shoulders. It's simply not acceptable. Sorry. So, and the other thing, I think the other thing is that if there are alternatives to these psychotropic drugs, he's already said, look, marijuana makes me feel better. Marijuana takes these problems away from me. Why the fuck isn't he being given marijuana?
Yeah. Now, what I've heard now, is that something that the federal government has said where now they're not going to be against if you can get a doctor in your state that has medical marijuana?
That's true. That's correct.
Will the military let you do that now?
That's correct.
As of recent?
Yes. It's a recent decision in the last couple of months, in fact. They've said, look.
It's just really sad. Greg would have been a great candidate for it, man.
It's terribly.
It was just after the 5 years of the cocktails and they're giving them a pill cocktails. There's nothing left, man. And I'm pretty sure what they were trying to do, that whole that shock thing, was they were trying to reboot his ass. Is what they're trying to do. Unscrew his mind out of all the chemicals that was in that shit, and try to give him a new starting point. But what were they going to do? Give him more fucking pills.
Those are terrible.
The man was happy smoking marijuana. And I really hope that there are doctors that will let veterans use it. Because the way they're getting treated now for psychiatric help, it killed my friend. And it killed my friend who was a father, 3 children. He loved them very much.
Look,
he liked life.
As it relates to the hospital you're talking about, my very father goes to the same hospital. He's a veteran of the Vietnam War. In fact, I was born in Würzburg, Germany during that time period in 1967. So he was an ensign mechanic, and he's got some stripes on his shoulders too from being knocked across the room trying to work on those tanks. It's all DC voltage, and he won't to this day touch electricity. If there's anything with electricity that has to be done at his house, I go do it for him. But my point is, he's a veteran. He has to go to that same hospital. This is the same hospital that mistreated my grandfather. My grandfather went in for routine surgery. And it had to do with they had to open up his abdomen, and I think it was something with his appendix, or it was just some kind of simple routine surgery. And he called me recently before he went into the hospital and said he wasn't feeling well. And I just wanted to talk to him and see how he was doing and make sure that he had some moral support because I loved my grandfather. And this was in the late 90s, 99. I think it was in 99. I'm still in Cleveland, Ohio at the time. And he went up to the hospital and had his little surgery, but then they did something. They damaged him somewhere in the surgery where they punctured his abdomen. They punctured his bladder. His bladder was punctured. And so there was some sepsis going on because there was some leakage from his bladder. And he ended up dying from sepsis in the hospital, from surgery, from really something that the doctor did, not from something that he was going to die from anyway. So, and nobody ever did anything about that. Nobody ever did anything about that.
No one never does nothing. And, it just it really fucking burns my ass. And, I just got to deal with it. That's the way it is. And you know what? I'm going to tell my kids, I don't want them to join the military. I got 2 boys, and I got 2 of them. And when they're getting close enough. They're 9 and 10 years old, and 8 more years, and they got to sign up. Hey, you can sign that selective service. You got to do that, but hopefully, Daddy's found a way and made enough money, so you don't got to join the military if you don't want to. I don't want him to have him do it like my buddy did. He did it on a financial issue.
You know what I say?
They had no other choice.
You know what I say they do?
I want to give them. Because I don't think they're going to get back what they put in.
Here's the thing. Well, they're not designed to. They're soldiers. They really deserve something for being over there, and there are a lot of things that they do throw in as benefits and bonuses for being over there, but none of them add up to any life. I mean, really, if you're joining the military, you're doing it out of patriotism, and they're just kind of supplementing your life, with a stipend, so to speak. But here's my point. If the military intends, because you just summed it up right there, who's going to send their kids off to the military if they find out when they get out that this is what they have to be exposed to? See, right? If you and I you get elderly or whatever, we get Medicare. So we get to go to any doctor or hospital. We don't have to go to some specific doctor or hospital because that's what the military tells us to do. I don't think because you're a military veteran, you should have to be required to go to the VA hospital. I think they should disband the VA hospitals, get rid of them entirely, spread the money that they were spending out there in those institutions and entities, spread it out back in Medicare, and let the veterans go to Medicare and get their help from Medicare because it's way better than the VA. And then they don't have to drive for eons to get to a VA hospital.
There, they would go. Greg would rather have gone to doctors in his own hometown that are recommended, but he didn't have the financial means to afford that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you can't afford, that's what I'm saying. If you can't afford it, and if especially if you're under, look, my dad is over 65. He's eligible for Medicare. If he wants Medicaid or if he wants medical care, he's required to go to the VA hospital. He doesn't get to go just to any old hospital just because he's got Medicare, but he can't go there because he's required to go to the VA. Medicare won't cover him because the VA does.
Sorry if I swore, but that's just messed up, man. And it's just, like I told my kids knew Greg. They loved Greg. They grew up seeing Greg. And Greg would come in, he'd wrestle, he liked to play around, he liked to whine the kids. He was just a cool guy to have around, and he loved the kids. And, I told him plain and simple how he died. Greg got sick. Greg didn't feel good because of depression, because of everything happened in his family, and things went on. And I told him exactly what they did. They gave him electric shocks. I had to tell a 9 and 10-year-old that they had to give Greg, their friend, and what they did to him, and then they didn't take care of him, and they didn't watch him and make sure he didn't get something bad to him, and that's how he passed away. And so I just hope that they remember that, when the decision comes later in life if they want to join the military, if this shit hasn't been cleaned up, I want them to really remember Greg before they take that sign that paper and do whatever, whoever the president at the time deems whatever the Constitution means and defend that. Because these days it just seems like whatever administration is running it and how they deem the Constitution, that's what you're fighting for.
You're in North Dakota, you said.
Guys are fighting for their way of a political faction, the way they look at the Constitution.
Eric, you said Eric, you said you're in North Dakota. Do you have any? Are you like us? Where about are you at in North Dakota? May I ask?
What? Can you repeat that?
Where about in North Dakota do you live? Approximately.
I live in Bismarck, capital.
Oh, okay. Let's say.
I live in Bismarck, capital.
Do you have any?
I'm right on the Missouri River.
All right. So, do you have many? Are you a pit stop for presidential candidates? Do they ever come to visit you when they're on their tours? The candidates.
Well, that wouldn't be smart, Steve. This is the least populated state in America. Just had a population. There's only 740,000 people here, Steve.
The whole state.
When the oil boom happened, we only had 370.
Yeah. The oil boom took a lot of people there, and
they're
they're
not coming here.
There's
Tim.
There's
only two electoral votes here.
Do you understand the word gentrification? Do you know what that means?
Gentrification?
Gentrification, yeah.
I am familiar with the term. Could you?
Yeah, sure. I'll define it for you. So, gentrification is the process by which people who are more affluent than the community itself move into it because of its popularity, for one reason or another, and so the affluent community outprices all the local community. In other words, all the stores that come in, the goods that are being sold. There's this artificial inflation caused by this phenomenon called gentrification. And I think that's what's happening in North Dakota as people come in the oil industry, taking part of that oil boom and the newfound wealth.
Which is now soaked up. She's on the way out.
Oh, it's on the way out already. So did it change your communities there? Did it make it so that people that were just part of the local economy that weren't involved in the oil affairs, all of a sudden the prices of everything went up and you couldn't afford nothing?
From where the back and oil fields are, I'm 100 and as the crow flies, 180 miles.
Oh, okay.
To drive there's no direct routes because we're so desolate. Like in Michigan, where I'm going to jump on I-79, hit 83, you're going to hit 94. You don't have that infrastructure here. Okay.
Okay.
So as the crow flies, it's 100, but it's still a 3-hour drive.
Right.
Bismarck is a town about the size of 80. In the Bismarck-Mandan area, the population is about 120,000.
Okay.
Okay, it's roughly about the size of Flint.
So there's no gentrification at your spot.
And so they have here their own thing. And yes, we've had a boom because we didn't have workers. Guys, you can go work. You can go get a job at Domino's Pizza for $15 an hour.
Okay.
But the problem is, on the flip side, you're going to pay $1,200 for a crappy efficiency apartment.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's
$300-$400 in Michigan.
That's what I'm saying. See, that's gentrification. That's what I'm talking about. When industry and people of higher income ability move into an area and push the prices of everything up because they're catering to those guys instead of you.
Oh, yeah, the rich got richer here. They've done pretty damn good. They knew because they'd had prior oil booms in the 70s. The first one was in the 50s, second one in the 70s for a moment at the oil embargo time, and another one for a slight moment in the 80s. So they knew it could dry up, but they really knew this was a big one.
Drawing this back,
they really get everyone on it, man. Housing here.
Eric, drawing this back to marijuana. I just want to. I got to say, I wish I was coast to coast AM, but I'm not. Drawing the subject back to marijuana. If there's something that you could see done in the future that would have helped your friend, or that you want to see done regarding the marijuana issue, what would it be?
Plain and simple, what it would be is. We just going to have the fact that marijuana is going to have to be rescheduled. The more states that, like with the initiative for MI legalized, which I totally support, and I pray to God it gets put on the ballot.
Me too.
As I'm having anxiety, waiting for some numbers to come back. I like to hear some positive numbers, brother. More of those things. That's going to be what affects the policy on the federal end for our military veterans, because they're not going to change unless the people make them change.
Oh, here's an interesting side note. I just watched the head of the ONDCP. He's the brand new head of the ONDCP. You know what the ONDCP is? It's the office.
No, I do not.
It's the Office of National Drug Policy Control. Drug control policy. ONDCP it's an extension of the White House, is what it is. It's an extension of the White House's operations. It's not a cabinet post, but yet it's a departmental position. It's a position within the White House. And the ONDCP creates drug policy, issue. They are the ones that mandate drug policy. If the president, through the ONDCP, wanted to reschedule marijuana all by himself, he absolutely could. He's got that power in his authority. So the president of the ONDCP, the guy he's what's called by unpopular demand, the drug czar, right? William Bennett's been there, a bunch of other guys. He's much softer on this criminal justice issue with regards to substance and substance abuse in general, or just substance use in general. He's on our side. He says that this is not a criminal justice issue, but a social policy issue, a health policy issue. And so we should treat it as such. However, I saw, according to his 60-minute interview, that he is opposed to marijuana legalization. Go figure.
I don't get that shit. It's taking the facts, and I'm going to decide what facts I can get to say enough to get me through an interview. But we got to stay hard true to our bureaucracy and keep it funded.
Right.
Fuck everyone else.
Well,
we got to run the bureaucracy and our for-profit fucking prison systems and our VA hospitals.
Right.
And everything else is fucked up.
I agree with you, Eric. I've got to move along, though, so I appreciate your call in. And if you ever want to call again and talk about anything cannabis-related on your mind, you've got our number.
I'd like to tell you sometime about how I ended up in Bismarck, North Dakota, because my house was raided in 2011.
Oh, see, now that's another interesting. You've got some cards up your sleeve there, Eric.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm a refugee. There's a reason I don't want to be in Bismarck.
I want to hear that story, but we don't have time for it tonight. You've got to call me back on another night. Maybe next Monday.
All right. God bless.
Let's do next Monday. Talk about this, or just pick another night.
Sounds great.
All right, Eric.
That sounds great. Thank you. God bless. Have a great night.
You as well. Happy New Year to you. Merry Christmas. Good Lord. The VA hospital and the mistreatment that occurs within. It's repeated all across the country. When are people going to wake up and decide that this is a subject they want to seriously tackle? Because Eric Owens Sr. from Bismarck, North Dakota, makes a perfectly valid and clear point. Who wants to send their kids off to foreign war if indeed... So we've got somebody calling the hotline now. Hang on. Studio. Oh. Hold on. Studio. Well. Who is calling the studio line? That's just weird. Usually that's the line that rings in here is the studio line. It's unpublished. See, now I got to do this, just out of curiosity, because I'm going to hit break anyways. I got nothing better to do. Do the old star 69 routine. It might be somebody important. Then again, it might be a telemarketer. It's probably a telemarketer.
Sorry, I didn't mean to call you. I'm just trying to look up with the show.
Oh, is this Eric?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. All right, appreciate. That's okay. That's Eric redialing from a different number. I don't know. See, he wasn't on that line. He was on the 800 number. I don't get it. That's okay. I didn't realize that Eric even had that number. I think I must have called him from that number after he left a message on the 800. See, if you call when we're off the air, Grasshopper's going to send you off to voicemail. Because I'm not answering the studio call lines. These lines are all in the studio. Most of them don't ring. Just that one line rings. When you call in, I can see on the screen that you're calling. There's a number of lines, and so I can answer the call that way. But the other line is for guests, and I think I must have called Eric back on the guest line after he left a message off hours on the Grasshopper voicemail. So, getting back off to break. I promised you marijuana news, and I'm going to give it to you, a year-end wrap-up on what the hell is going on with marijuana in the United States at the end of 2015. Updates, things to come, some surprising information. It's all on the way. Stand by as you get those full details after the break on the Full Melt Show.
You're getting the Full Melt.
Promotional consideration provided by NoSmell.com, pioneering the storage market for cannabis users. The NoSmell patented bag technology offers users 100% smell-proof detection from even the most sophisticated of noses. NoSmell.com, so nobody knows. When placing your order for a NoSmell bag, make sure to use discount code FULLMELT and take 10% off the entire order. Learn more about NoSmell technology at NoSmell.com.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law
at RudoyLaw.com.
RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana
and up-to-date news.
That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571. It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio Show.
All right, so no time to screw around, Got to get to the news because there's so much of it and so little time left. This is according to Investment News. They're talking about the newly renewed ban. The DOJ's ceasefire on state marijuana laws sparking fresh investment buzz. It's now still way too early to put any serious money behind the fast-growing marijuana industries, but the potential is certainly there and worth watching. Right now, it's basically a penny stock industry in its infancy, but it'll grow geometrically unless the federal government decides to enforce federal laws, says Paul Schatz. He's the president of Heritage Capital. So far, 40 states have legalized the use of medical marijuana in some form, and 4 states have legalized marijuana for recreational use, so it's really for adult use, isn't it? Let's call it what it is. But those state laws are still in technical violation of federal laws, which deem most marijuana distribution and use illegal. All. President Barack Obama's signing of the 2016 omnibus appropriation bills, the omnibus appropriations bill, the federal government extended for a second year the so-called ceasefire of federal marijuana enforcement over state laws. That's good news for advocates of legalized marijuana and could also be good news for investors in the various growing and distribution industries. All of the state-level programs out there right now are currently in conflict with federal law, but this ceasefire bars the Department of Justice from interfering with state-level laws for another year. This according to Steph Scherer, executive director and founder of Americans for Safe Access, which she describes as a 100,000-member patient-based organization. The future of the $4 billion legal marijuana industry is quickly gaining momentum with recreational use initiatives currently in the works in California, Maine, Massachusetts, and Nevada. And Ms. Scherer expects to see enhanced medical use legislation proposed in as many as 17 states next year. But even in the context of such fervent state-level political activity combined with hands-off federal enforcement, the investment community has yet to fully take shape. So, as one might expect, there are dozens of fledgling penny stock companies right now being traded over the counter, displaying the kind of volatility that would likely rattle the most aggressive investors. So you got like Growbox Sciences. It's on the stock exchanges, GBLX. It's currently trading at 14 cents a share, and it's down 61% from the start of the year. But in 2013, it rallied a 70% gain. Canavest, Corporation, 15 cents a share, down 92.8% this year after falling 92% last year, but gaining 470% in 2013. Cannabis sativa, CBDS, at 82 cents a share, declining 89% this year, following an 820% gain last year. My advice would be to invest in bakeries in states where marijuana usage has been approved, joked Bob Rice, chief investment strategist at Tangent Capital. There's really not any public companies that you can seriously consider investing in, he added. Soon enough, some grown-up company, quite possibly a big tobacco brand, will start swallowing up the little local dispensaries and create a real national brand, and waiting for that might be the best bet for average investors. You see what they're saying? They're already steering this towards big business. They're already trying to, look, even the little business guys, even the little guys that are creating this new found industry, propping up marijuana for all markets, medical and adult use. They're already positioning this. The whole reason that they're even in the game is to be bought one day by one of these big box companies. To be clear, every stock in the highly fragmented universe isn't a fly-by-night penny stock. Canna Therapeutics is trading at more than $15 a share. It's up 55% this year, but wasn't listed last year. GW Pharmaceuticals is trading at more than $68 a share, up 3% this year after gaining 63% last year. If you're investing in this space, it should literally be money you expect to lose, said Mr. Schatz. Most of the penny stock companies will not be around in 3 to 5 years, and until the federal government changes the laws, it's high risk squared. He compares investing risks and opportunities to internet stocks in the early 90s. There are a lot of celebrities with these companies, and investors don't understand the industry, Mr. Schatz said. It's a subsector of the economy that's ready to explode, but you got the federal government standing in the way. Right now, this is not like buying AOL in 1998 because it's a complete and utter crapshoot. That's what the business side of this looks like in the coming days. Everybody's holding out for the lever to be pulled so big business can come in and sweep everybody clean. And then watch out, because you're going to see guys trying to make claims to patents on products, and more importantly, I'm not talking about just the mechanics of it. I'm not talking about your bowls and your bongs and, people with new inventions and new things that nobody's ever described before. That's a patentable thing. I'm talking about people getting patents on genes. I'm talking about people getting patents on certain parts of the plant, saying they've claimed some new discovery to it. It's going to happen. And when it does, all the people in the cannabis market are going to be yielding to them. Oh, no. We've sampled your cannabis, and we found out that it has our gene inside of it. Find a way to get rid of it, or you can't sell your cannabis without licensing from us. That's where this is going. And there's no stopping it. Don't try. If you think you can hold up a mountain when an earthquake comes, go ahead and stand there. I dare you. You're going to get crushed by the mountain. If you think that when Moses parts the sea and you're walking through there, if the sea comes crashing back, you're not going to drown, good luck. You're not holding back that wall of water. You can't keep a boulder from falling downhill. This is what you're working with. These are the forces at play. Now, see, something else. There was this other bit of news that I could not pass up. And do we have time? We got to have time. I'll make time if we don't have time. I'll tell you that. It's this business about protection. This is another Michigan-related story. We are in Michigan, so sometimes I like to reflect on our local populace. Medical marijuana could be a big topic of discussion for lawmakers in 2016. We've been saying this all along. 2016, the year of the cannabis plant. I think the Chinese are probably changing the calendar right now. 2016, the year of the cannabis plant. Bills in the state Senate would create protections for dispensaries and people who use non-smokable forms of medical marijuana, like baked items and oils. Now, Democratic State Sam Singh, Democrat from East Lansing, has introduced a new bill that would ban employers from firing workers for having a medical marijuana card. Oh, isn't that long overdue? Probably never see the light of day. Singh says firings have become a problem in many states where medical marijuana is legal. Oh, you come up with this? How many years? How many years, Singh, after we passed the medical? Let me see. There's 9, there's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 7 years after we passed this Medical Marijuana Act. Now you want to say don't fire anybody? Don't you think it's a little late, Mr. Singh? I don't think it matters anyways. Frankly, I'm on your side. I just don't see it getting the light of the day. I just don't. Under this House Bill 5161, it's co-sponsored by one of my great friends, Jeff Irwin, representative from Ann Arbor. He's a Democrat, saying patients would be fired if marijuana use interferes with their job performance. They could still be fired if it interferes with their job performance, just like alcohol. Look, they don't allow alcohol, but if you show up at work drunk, chances are you're going to get shit canned. Singh feels the issue of job protections was left out earlier this year when the House passed major changes to Michigan's medical marijuana system. Singh says he supported those bills at that time, but we really didn't talk about the rights of the individual, he said. And that's something that I felt should just have had a conversation on. Unfortunately, we didn't. And so that's why I've introduced this bill to begin that conversation. The other medical marijuana bills have long been stalled in the state Senate, but proponents say they're eyeing a renewed push to pass legalization in early 2016. Yeah, you know why? Because those other groups that have been trying to get you to pass it, now that they've switched all the guts of those bills to their favor. And they're also big business guys. These are guys with deep pockets and know nothing about pot. Again, they're trying to take the industry out of the hands that people know about cannabis and put it into the hands of guys with money instead. What do you think that product is going to look like? That's what I want to know. And I say that it's not got a chance in hell anyways, even if they get it done. If they pass these bills and they close down these dispensaries, because they're going to have to make room for the legal ones now. If they close down these dispensaries, the cost is going to be so prohibitive because of all that overhead that not a single person is ever going to participate. They're going to starve on the vine, you mark my words, because everybody's going to either go to the black market or continue to grow it themselves.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.